So great. We are happy that we do see a lot of people because we already expected that everybody would go to have some beers, etc. So great that you are interested to hear a little bit about the lessons we learned during the last 3 years on supply chains. When we remember all, and I think here in Israel everything has become more or less normal. At least
Thanks.
if you go
That was
outside
great.
of this
Cheers.
room.
No, I'll see you there.
Then it was basically going from crisis to crisis to crisis. And it started to disrupt the supply chain when everybody switched to e-commerce and switched to, instead of going to restaurants, to food delivery. That's the downstream part. And later on, it rippled through, COVID rippled through the supply chains upstream. You remember and still probably if you have tried to buy a car, the chip crisis, which is still there, also basically a result of the COVID pandemics and the panic that the OEMs and some suppliers had, that they would buy stuff that they do not need. And then we have seen even more disruptions with transportation capacity, and now just recently, in the last year, with raw material prices spiking, and last but not least, with the war that we do see in Europe, again, new challenges on the supply chain. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we do that, I would like to ask my friends here on the panel to introduce themselves. Erin, if you want to start.
Certainly. Thank you so much for having me today. It's great to be with all this passion and excitement in the room. I'm Erin Spring. I lead a team at Goodyear called New Ventures, where we are focused on our next generation solutions in mobility. I founded our venture investment, our corporate venture fund in 2020, so it's been a kind of a crazy journey since then that I'm happy to share with you a bit more. So I lead our venture team from external investments, but I also lead our internal incubator that is building next generation solutions for Goodyear. So as we kind of think about it, Goodyear has been around for over 100 years, kind of at that first inflection point and part of creating the automotive industry. So we're here to continue to enable mobility and enable solutions that are more efficient, connected, and making the transportation ecosystem safer, convenient, and more fun. So thanks for having me today.
So hi everyone, I'll go next. My name is Israel, and I am overseeing all of the logistics, business and platforms at VIA. Now, most of you are probably familiar with VIA in the public transportation industry, working with more than 500 partners across the globe, transit agencies, cities, in more than 35 countries. And what we've done in the past years is also leverage our transportation stack into the logistics industry, from moving people also to moving goods. And I'm very happy to be here today and share with all of you some of what we've been seeing with our retail partners across the globe.
So, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Big pleasure to be here. My name is Adriano. I'm in charge of the supply chain transformation from the business side at AB InBev, the beer company, right? Budweiser, Coronas, and Stella. So big pleasure to be here to share a bit of our journey as well and challenges on our supply chain for the past couple of years, right?
Hi, I have a long go pitch. My name is Doron. I'm one of the co-founders at Bringos, also acting as a CEO. My personal background is I've been an entrepreneur for the last 12 years. Previously, before founding Bringos, I founded a company named I Feel It. There we have developed a 3D engine and a 3D content platform that enabled online brands and e-retailers to present their consumer goods in online and reduce the gap between how consumer goods look online versus offline. We exited the company during 2014, and one of the most interesting part about that journey is that we learned that e-com is great until it hit the dust of logistics. And no matter how much technology innovation you bring to e-com and omnichannel, it starts and ends with logistics. So back in 2016, together with some amazing co-founders, we founded Bringos with the goal of democratizing Amazon logistics services and technology. So we founded Bringos, and Bringos is a end-to-end delivery management platform. We can call it the next generation of last mile operating systems. It's designed to use proprietary algorithms and automation capabilities to track, monitor, optimize all moving parts around logistics, and especially in the last mile. We basically connect all stakeholders involved in the process, shippers, carriers, drivers, customers, into one unified process. And by doing that, we are reducing the frictions and increasing, of course, the utilization. And we enable our customers to have one source of truth when it comes to their operations and gaining insights.
So we have today basically technology, but we have also users of technology, and we have people or ladies that are looking for technology. But I would like to start first to ask Adriano what he did, because at least I talked about supply chain disruptions, but at least we in Germany, there was one thing that was not disrupted, and it was beer supply, fortunately. So the question is, what did you do? What were the challenges, and what did you do? And maybe before we go in the technology side, from an organizational perspective, what has changed? What can we learn?
Yeah, so happy to hear, right, that you could find beer. That's great. But indeed, it was a big challenge, especially the last couple of years to our supply chain. I think every supply chain has suffered in a certain way, right? I mean, our supply chain is quite local, right? If you think on the brewing, I mean, we brew, we pack, we ship, mostly local, right? I mean, we have breweries in more than 40 countries across the globe. But then when it comes to the materials, then we cross lots of borders, right? I mean, that is, we ship it from, empty cans to glass to malt and barley. So that goes, right, from different countries to our breweries. So that was a major challenge. It still is, to be honest, right? I mean, you mentioned both the upstream and the downstream. That was one of our challenges. We've been working a lot to improve collaboration with our suppliers. That's before technology, right? How to fix the visibility, the collaboration, right? The information sharing with our suppliers to improve that planning process and the availability of materials. So that was one challenge. The other challenge that I think it was also mentioned here, we saw a big acceleration on this consumer trend on home consumption, right? I mean, the growth on the e-commerce, on the direct-to-consumer that we also do, has also impacted big time our supply chain. So to both sides, there was a challenge accelerated by the pandemic, right? And that we're now, working on processes and also technology. I think we're going to mention later on how to tackle and how to fix that. But yes, big challenge, and it's been fun. Yeah.
So talking about technology, Aaron, what were the problems that you have or might still have with the supply chain, with moving goods, etc.? What are the problems to solve, and that you are looking to solve through investment and to building respective solutions?
Yes, certainly. I think that we all know, and we're all still struggling through the supply chain challenges of today. And I think that we're doing that quite well. I think one of the interesting things about the pandemic, as you mentioned before, for us, number one, it shifted our demand in our core products today. So yes, no one was moving on the roads with respect to going to work, et cetera, but huge demand that we saw in last mile delivery. I at least have 3 or 4 vehicles showing up to my house per day to deliver things in a safer manner, a contactless manner. So as we looked at the pandemic really accelerating some changes in the market for us, we also at the core look at how are we going to enable these new solutions in the future. So one main area where we're investing is looking at transport of goods in the future. How is that changing? And all across the different types of transportation. So starting with longer hauls to middle mile, as well as that final mile of delivery. So places where we're investing today, for example, one of our early investments was in Too Simple, which is an autonomous vehicle, commercial trucking company, really focus on how do you solve that driver shortage problem? How can we do those longer hauls in a much more efficient manner? Secondly, in that middle mile delivery, as people started this huge uptake in ordering groceries online, what happened was, hey, now you're moving groceries from constantly throughout the day to different pickup areas, to and from distribution centers to your stores. And we invested and partnered with a company called Gatic AI, who's automating that middle mile delivery. And then finally, as we think about one of the major trends during the pandemic with respect to contactless delivery, we are invested in a company called Starship Technologies, which is really a sidewalk delivery robot. Sometimes people say a cooler on wheels, that's doing that very final mile delivery, whether it's from the grocery store or from the restaurant to the home or to a point on your campus. And as much as we saw that really important in the days where no one was leaving their home, now it's really sticky. It's delivering very efficiently, a very convenient transportation element. So in this world, we are investing to enable that future. And then also a big part of what we do is how do we partner to help those companies be successful with what Goodyear can bring to the table. Of course, there's tires, but there's also that touch point with the road where we provide digital solutions to make transportation safer and more efficient. So as much as it's been a challenging time over the last couple years, really focusing on, what is the change that has accelerated and ensuring that we're a part of making it happen.
Yeah, Aaron, you talked about robotics in last mile delivery and autonomy, and as one part to solve that challenge of massively increasing package and food delivery. Doran, when local suppliers change their supply chain, also as we have heard from Adriano, what does that mean for your technology, the technology you are offering?
So the pandemic has increased the demand exponentially across industries. And in my humble opinion, the biggest impact was on distribution, B2B and B2C in the last mile. Now, when you increase demand, you increase the stakeholders that involved in the process, which can be, again, the carriers, the shippers, the customers, the drivers, and so on and so forth. And that eventually increases the friction in the process and creates a lot of high operation expenses. If you add to that you have a shortage of drivers, like Irene mentioned, you'll get a huge chaos. And that chaos leads to poor customer experience, let's say high operation expenses and loss of revenues. So organizations today need to do much more with less. They need to focus on two main issues. The first one is how to automate the entire flow since the moment that the order is created until it reaches the endpoint. The endpoint can be a consumer or a business. And the secondly, how they need to think about how they create one source of truth to gain insights regarding their operations, because they need to manage a flexible infrastructure which includes their assets, third parties, dedicated third parties, and so on and so forth. So this is exactly what we do in Bringos. We provide that one source of truth with that end-to-end delivery management platform that solves multiple challenges across the industry, which can be the first mile, the mid mile, the last mile, creating a network and help companies like Goodyear and others, let's say, scale and reduce their operational expenses and meet the shortage with the drivers that they have today.
Great, thanks a lot, Doran, for that. Israel, we talked before, and you mentioned it and when I stumbled the first time over VIA, I think 7-8 years ago with your CTO at that time in London, it was all about public transport and that kind of stuff. But now you mentioned, and I think we all are very eager to learn or to understand, what you are doing now and how we has been helping customers and businesses to become more efficient. Maybe you can shed some light on that.
Sure. So you're right. VIA was founded 2012 with a vision to create efficient, equitable, sustainable, and digitized infrastructure for public transport. And when you look at what we offer and what kind of technologies we've introduced through the process, you see dynamic routing, you see multiple pickups, drop-offs, you see navigation, You see driver management. You see consumer experience, and basically, that's not very different from what we need to meet today in the market of retail and logistics. If you look at a few of the things that my friends here in the panel mentioned, efficiency. So Doron mentioned the fact that at the beginning of the pandemic, we've seen e-commerce booming. There's an interesting piece by McKinsey talking about that within the first 8 weeks of that pandemic, we had acceleration of 5 years of digital acceptance. And that, of course, created a very big potential in the market. And we've seen retailers really going after the end consumer, pouring marketing budgets, looking for the top line, and expend something on profitability. And we've seen this changing. The focus has shifted. We've seen in the past 9 to 12 months a much more, a lot of focus on the efficiency and profitability. And then retailers are looking for better routes, looking for new techniques on bringing more packages from multiple destinations to multiple pickups to drop-offs and many more. So that's one, efficiency. Second, like Aaron said, about the driver shortage. 2021, we ended with around, in the US, 80,000 drivers short. And that's massive, not only on per retail, just if you think that in the US, 70% of freight is on the road, that has also macro effects, but also on the specific retailers. And we've been seeing retailers trying to address that problem in multiple ways. Some go again back to efficiency. We need to make more the same tasks, sometimes higher demand with lower drivers. So pushing to, again, more efficient routes and more. But also a different angle we've seen on the tech side is the fact that retailers are now trying to manage the drivers differently. Onboarding is different, trying to retain the drivers is different, and by adding the right technology to the interaction with the drivers, they're all of a sudden also able to bring new drivers they were not able to bring in the past. So that's second. So we have efficiency, we have driver management. Third is the interaction with the end consumer. I think all of us, like Aaron said, have experienced consuming last mile, and we have expectations. Things need to be on time, we need to have visibility, and we're seeing retailers also very putting efforts over there. On top of that, also looking for a branded experience. If you look at the grocery industry, in which you have also Instacart, which is a one-stop shop, and then you see the brands a bit, can we differ between the providers? So also a lot of energy going into that technology. And luckily enough, we at VIA have been putting a lot of effort in the past decade in these three areas. Of course, also in additional parts. And when we see today these parts as really main points, but also opportunities for the tech industry that we're part of. When we introduced our platform a few years ago, we were very overwhelmed by how good that was accepted by the market. And today we're focused on the transportation parts of both middle mile and last mile, on helping retailers have a more efficient, digitized, and sustainable service to them and to their end consumers.
So Adriano, now we have heard a little bit what the colleagues are offering. So once you have heard that, what have you done and what do you plan in terms of technologies to improve your logistics operations?
Yeah, so great point. I mean, one of the things that we have in mind always is that technology is here to solve our problems, right? It's not the technology for the technology, but it's to solve real problems or to open new opportunities to the business or to our customers, right? And we're trying to solve three major opportunities, right? One is to delight our customers and consumers, and that's through new opportunities or new channels or better services. So this is one. We then have the good and old maximize value, right? Which is to improve productivity, right? To lower costs, right? In the supply chain. And then there is the third one, which is the operational excellence, right? Which is the safety, the quality, the sustainability. They all fit into there. Challenge for us as a big company is that we have all those legacy systems, right? We have different processes in different countries, sometimes different requirements, local requirements. So it is indeed a big challenge, right, to deploy solutions that you can apply in different places, different countries. But we've been working on and learning a lot, right, on that journey. Some of the things that we learned is that, one, again, strategy before the technology, right? Two, I mean, we need to break the silos, right? In big companies, that's always a challenge. So we're looking more and more for solutions that can exchange information and break silos between different departments. And three, business and technology needs to work together, right? Whatever we're doing, it's not a IT initiative, it's a business and IT enterprise, right, to solve our problems. So it's been a very interesting journey. I think we're learning a lot. We have a big group of people in the organization working on those transformation initiatives, and those are the problems that we're trying to solve in our supply chain.
Right. Aaron, some quick words. What's different from Goodyear's perspective, talking about mainly tires, I assume, compared to beer?
The difference between tires
No,
and
no,
beer?
no. No, that difference I know. That's for sure. No, from the problems that Adriano mentioned that they are trying to solve and the
Yeah,
problems you're trying to solve.
certainly similar problems. I think, ultimately from our vantage point, and I kind of said this in the beginning, we're going through, I would say, the next inflection point in mobility. As a tire company, we were created and enabled the first movement into automotive, and now as we look to the future, of course, it's solving how are we going to be more productive as a company, but how are we ultimately going to delight our customers by unlocking new value? And I think that's really important as we see this new ecosystem in which we believe, hey, we have this key component on a vehicle that is touching the road on a regular basis. How do we use that touch point and that information and integrate it back into these vehicles and make them safer and more efficient? So that's why we're here in Israel too, to really connect with the community here that has a proven track record and the tenacity to go after really hard problems. So we're really looking forward to partnering with all of you on our next 125 years together.
Right. So we still have a little bit time, so I would like to ask you to keep it short. But Israel, you told me the story about the work you did with Shufasal. I hope I pronounce it right. Tell us in a few seconds what you did with that biggest supermarket chain in Europe, or in a minute.
So Shufasal is one that we're very excited about. It's the biggest supermarket chain in Israel and a leading player in everything that has to do with digital and the transformation. And we feel very lucky to be chosen by Shufasal to provide our platform to them. In a few seconds, like you asked, we're providing all the platform for them to manage their middle mile. Meaning from the beginning with the dispatching team, making the most efficient routes from warehouses to stores, routing, navigation, making sure delivery gets there, proof of delivery, being very accurate. For us, it's also very interesting as a deployment because we have been hearing a lot about the last mile part and how challenging that is, also because of the fact that there's a lot of cost in that end. But we're seeing also growing demand within the middle mile and the need for technology. So we're very happy to partner with Shufasal and many more others today in the world.
Doran, you go last. What are you planning for Bringosh in the next months or years? What can you tell us?
So eventually we founded Bringos with the goal of enabling businesses to deliver the goods in a fast and seamless manner. And if you think about it, logistics, distribution, last mile is not only about deliveries. It's about connecting the dots. So, for example, we're working with PepsiCo or Farmacia del O, which is one of the largest pharmacy chains in Latin America. And these guys don't have only drivers and vehicles. They have merchandisers, they have field service agents, and so on and so forth. So our unique solution, which includes, of course, dynamic routing and a lot of things that we do, enabled us to correlate and sync between those field agents, drivers, vehicles, assets, capacity, customers into one unified solution that enabled them dynamically correlating based upon demand, supply, inventory, and so on and so forth. So we took the last mile and mid-mile a step further, and we said, okay, listen, that is distribution, but it involves workers, field agents, services, sales, and so on and so forth, and you connected everything into one seamless platform.
Great. So very complex problems, good solutions, and a lot of things to learn, a lot of things that we can expect in the next years, I think. And thanks for the session. Thanks for your interest in that session, and looking forward to meet a couple of you afterwards now during the last hour or so.
Thank you.